It is for Campbell Safety Consulting. I got to tell you, Darian, he can't wait to meet you. New sponsor of the feature, Jeff Campbell. Says, I can't wait to meet that Darian guy. He's already got some action off the sponsorship, too. So it's nice to hear if you does your workplace have a proper safety program. If not, you call Campbell Safety Consulting. Okay, so let's start at St. Patrick's Day. Like, go back to your college days, your playing days. Like, was that a day that, the college days, you guys must have got after it?
Of course. I mean, when you're young and you can down a few brews, then of course, man, it's always good to be alive and well on St. Patrick's. So I have a lot of good memories with the boys, just chugging a lug and downing those brews, man. That's what it's all about.
So when you were at North Carolina in college, so were you part of a fraternity as well, or where did you live, or did the athletes all hang out? Like, how did that work? Like, did you have the best of both worlds, like sports and fraternity? Because that would have been, I'm surprised you're alive if you did both of those.
No, you know what? Growing up, I actually wanted to join a fraternity, but once I got to college, I realized that there just wasn't enough time for me. Being a quarterback, and we put in a lot more time than the other guys, so I just didn't have the time. But the first 2 years, and I'm not sure if it's like this anymore now that these guys are millionaires at 17, 18 years old walking onto campus. But your first 2 years, you stayed on campus. You're in the dorm just like, any regular student. And we were in a freshman dorm, so we were able to enjoy the life of just a regular student. All of it just wasn't athletes in our dorm. It was any and everybody. It was co-ed as well. So we were able to just experience. Yeah, it was nuts. It was just something that blew my mind. you notice I said that pretty fast and kept going, right? So, but yeah, it was definitely an experience and a shock for me going into that environment. So first 2 years you're in dorms with all the other kids, and then you get a chance to go and enjoy a little bit more of an adult life. You go get an apartment, and you now can pay some bills, and they kind of transition you slowly into becoming an adult.
So when we went to that game this past year in Tuscaloosa, that massive Alabama-Georgia game early in the season, Buddy and I drove from Nashville. That camp, I've been to some campuses, but that Tuscaloosa thing was off the charts. Mind you, it was a huge game. And you sit in the fraternity houses, the sororities, like these things are, you can tell there's no shortage of money, right? And then so Buddy and I are sitting there talking after the game. We're like, I can't even imagine playing football here. Like, look around like this. And you are the guy in front of those 90-some thousand people that game. Then we're listening to the post-game show after. And the coach was on, and they kind of alluded to like big pressure, now what, the guy, and he basically was talking about, how these kids, they play video games. Like, it's not what you think anymore. And then you hear that in the NHL. Yeah. Isn't that crazy, Darian? Like, just the different generations.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for these guys, this is a more tech, guys are more involved with this AI stuff and tech and video games. You can play on your PC now, your handhelds, your phone. Just technology is just different. And, when it comes to courting and being able to meet people, you can just do that from your phone. You don't have to have the ability to talk to people and to communicate with them. You can just pick up your phone and send a text message. So it's just different for this generation. Whereas, with my generation, we actually had to communicate. We had to walk up to women and introduce yourself and be able to, you had to talk to them. So it's just a lot different, man. And I think that's what keeps these kids young a little bit longer, because they're still doing these kid things as they, get up there in age.
I wonder if, and I'm not sure if Luke's listening, if he wants to call in, I wonder what St. Patrick's Day at Michigan State was like.
Oof.
I'm assuming it was probably a train wreck. You'd have to think that it's all out the window.
I could only imagine, exactly what went on a campus like that. I mean, North Carolina, we had about 30,000 students. but Michigan State has around 50,000. So I couldn't imagine, basically two campuses in one, and the fun times they had there. I know it was amazing.
Big potluck. St. Patrick's Day potluck.
Yeah.
With Luke. He loves loves talking food. Hey, Alan said here, as a North Carolina guy, like March Madness, North Carolina, could they do some damage here? What do you know about their basketball team?
You know what? I've been keeping up with them a little bit here lately as it gets later on in the season. I don't really follow too much, during the season. But as we approach March Madness, I think we have a chance. I don't know how good we are if we'll get to that Final Four level, but I think we have a chance the first couple rounds to make some noise. We had a heartbreaking loss to Duke this past weekend in the ACC champions in the ACC tournament. Sorry, that was horrible, man. And anytime you lose to Duke, it makes it twice as worse, right? So, but I think if we can just get in there and play together, and you see so many Cinderella teams make noise around March Madness time, right? So if we can be one of those teams to get hot and play some good basketball this time of year, we could definitely make some noise.
I saw that on the weekend. So I don't know the player, the guy he had braids. Last year he had missed a free throw or something, and they ended up losing out. And this year, same thing. He fouled. He put his foot in the paint on a free throw. The guy sunk it, which would have tied the game, called off. And there's 3 seconds left or whatever, and you see him on the bench and he's in tears. But then the coach had him in the post-game presser saying, like, listen, he's not the reason we lost. Like, we're a team. You got to feel bad. That's two. You guys seem like you're good fans, but I don't know if you're ready to give this guy a third chance to wreck it all for the Tar Heels.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I mean, these are still kids. We have to remember that. I mean, even though they look like grown men at this stage in their lives, they're still kids. And so you have to have some, a soft spot in your heart for that, man, because it's tough to deal with.
It's Double Talk with Darian Durant. It's brought to you by Campbell Safety Consulting. So it's Combine Week here, and it's here in Regina. Put your coaching hat on if you're a manager. What would you be going into the CFL Combine and looking for, Darian?
I guess the main thing you want to see is if what you see on film matches the numbers, right? So, you've seen these guys for years and, the plays they've made and how they look with pads on. But now it's time to take the pads off and see them sized up against their peers and see if they can really, really, run as fast as it looks on film, or if they can jump, or if they're explosive. So I think, you're pretty much aware of their ability on the field, but now you want to see where they stack up against their peers and if these guys are really as athletic as they look, or is the competition that bad. So I think the Combine can really give you an idea of that, the true athleticism of some of these guys, especially the skill position, because, with O-linemen, it's kind of hard to get in a Combine situation, O-line and D-line, and really see what they can do. But, when you get into the skill position, your receivers, your DBs, your running backs, now you can time them, see, how explosive they are with their broad jumps, their vertical jumps, different things like that. Now you can really match them up with the other guys.
Okay, since you've been through this process and you've talked to a lot of general managers in football along the way, what's the one question or questions, if there was a couple, that maybe either messed you up or really made you think, or one that really, when they come at you in the interview process, to be like, whoa, whoa. Because now everybody talks about it's the character. It's forget the on the field, but what are you like as a person? What's one that used to put you in a pretzel?
Well, I think it's more so the X's and O's. I mean, when you get in there and they read a play to, I'm not sure if you guys saw Hard Knocks, and when Brian Daboll was asking Jaden Daniels, he read a play to him, and he wanted Jaden Daniels to repeat that play immediately and then go on the board and, draw up the routes and everything that they talk about. So the hardest thing for me was just taking the terminology that I learned in college for 4 years and then hearing this play from a coach and then having to recite that back and go on the board and draw that play up and tell him what you'll do against each coverage. That's hard for a quarterback, man, because your vocabulary and what you're used to hearing is nothing compared to what he's giving you. So that's kind of the trickeration that goes on with backs. And I think for other guys, coaches want to see how much you love the game. I mean, there's so many talented guys that don't love the game, that don't have passion, that don't go all out each and every play. And, they just play football because they're physically talented, right? But you want a guy who lives, breathes, eats, sleeps football, who just loves football inside and out. So I think this interviewing process gives coaches and GMs a great idea of who really loves football or who's just playing it because they're talented. Because, when you do that, you can easily see that, man, maybe this guy won't be a 5 or 6 year guy for us. Maybe we can get 1 or 2 years out of him. GMs and coaches can really be able to tell that from one interview for sure.
Because you want to see you want to see them in pressure, right? You want to see them sweat a bit.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it's all about. You want to see, if it's the fourth quarter, if the crowd is loud, if you're tired, if you just took a big hit, can you remember the play? Can you recite the play? And not only that, can you go on the board and draw the play or in the game and see these coverages and be able to make the right decision? So, you really don't put a lot on it when it's, going on in the interviewing room, but these things definitely transfer over to the field.
Do you think a lot of guys can do themselves in the interview process?
I think so, man. I mean, a lot of guys are nervous. Look, you're nervous, man. I mean, especially for guys who, you may grow up in a CFL town and you're meeting with Jeremy O'Day, who, is the GM of your childhood dream to, play for this team. So it could be challenging and it could be nerve-wracking. So if you don't have the right answers or you don't have the right attitude, you can definitely do yourself in and hurt yourself more than you can help. So my best advice is just to try to be as relaxed as possible and make sure you come off as a guy that loves the game, that you'll do anything for the game, that, it doesn't matter your contract. You'll sit on the practice squad for a year or two, or you'll do whatever it takes to make the team. Those are the guys that GMs look for.
Is it such a fine line in this day and age, Darian, where the players, they're all playing football all season long. They're all training in these academies or at these camps. Is it such a fine line athletic and skill-wise that there's so many other things that come into play?
Yeah, for sure. And you'll see once you get into these combine environments that the numbers may be similar for a large number of these guys, but what's going to separate them is their passion, their ability to go on the board and recite plays, their ability to know coverages, basically what you can't teach, which is from the head up. All your athletic ability you have, but you want to see the guys that can retain information, who are smart football players, and like I said, guys who have that passion. So, you definitely want to come across as if you love the game, and then nothing else matters. That's what GMs want to see.
Was there how much more was it more difficult your playbook running your offense in the CFL than college? Is there such a large gap there from a college playbook to a CFL?
For sure. I mean, in college, you're 18, 19, 20 years old. You're still raw, so to speak, to the game. As much experience as you think you have, you're still a young man. But when you get to the pro level and, you have a 10-year vet and he's, 31 years old, 32 years old, he understands the game. So the verbiage will be different. It's more sophisticated. It's more complex systems. It's, And a lot of times it really depends on the guy as well, because some guys can't retain information like others. Some guys may be better off having an entire play be 3 words, where another guy is okay with an entire play being 12 words. So, when you get to that pro level, you definitely see the complexity is different, and you're dealing with grown men and whose brains are fully developed. Because when you're in college, you're still teaching the 17-year-old freshman quarterback who's coming in, right? So you have to be able to explain things to him so that he understands.
Would there ever be a point where you were, when you were a veteran in the CFL and starting to go, where you'd be able to kind of say, okay, we used to run this play at North Carolina, or I used to run this play back in high school, and do like a variation off it? Like, would they take, your insight and your, I guess, previous favorite plays and massage those?
For sure. I mean, look, you'll have some stubborn coaches who could care less, and they're just going to call their offense, and they don't care what you've ran, what you're comfortable with. And you don't see that a lot anymore, because now, these coaches' jobs are tied to these players, right? So they want to make sure that they implement an offense that's familiar for the guys and they understand. But, some time ago, it didn't matter. But, for me, for example, I would see a play, in practice or something, and I say to myself, okay, so that's the old bingo that I ran in college, or that's the old dagger that I ran in college. So I would take a play and, for my sake, just, revert back to my college days, because it would help me process it better. And also it will help me. I already knew the reads. I could say, okay, I'll read it like dagger, or I'll read it like Bronco. And that made it much easier for me.
Since a playbook's complicated, and there's lots of them, when a guy runs the wrong route or doesn't know the play, when they come back to the huddle, do you say something? Do you laugh to be like, what was that? Like, what game are you playing? Like, does it just go, is it an unspoken rule? Because no matter what,
depends.
Sometimes you got to call out a coworker when they do something stupid.
Yeah, it depends. Now, if you're a guy that doesn't make many mistakes at all, then I won't say a word. I mean, because we all, have brain farts from time to time. But if you're a guy who, consistently, you have to tell over and over what to do, or they're always forgetting routes or forgetting plays, then yeah, I'm pissed off and I'm cursing. And I was never a guy to hold my tongue. I would throw out all the MFs and every curse word you could think of, because, But in the pros, man, when you mess up, no one knows from the stands who messes up or what went wrong on a play.
Yeah.
And
just looks bad on you.
Exactly. And not only that, it could cost you a game, and it could be a playoff seeding game or something that's very important, and then you lose your job. So there's very little room for errors at the pro level, and a lot of coaches, they don't tolerate it at all.
Because next thing you know, somebody from the stands is yelling at you how much money you make, and that they're sick and tired of paying your salary if you're going to be throwing interceptions. But you can't say, dude ran the wrong route. It's not my fault.
And you would never say that to the media as well, right? You would never throw anybody under the bus. That's just an unspoken, unwritten rule for the quarterback. Never throw your guys under the bus, and you take the blame at all times.
We all gotta be on the same page. It's code. Someone being a buffoon and not running the right route. That's really, really good, cool insight. Speaking of nuts, do you have any insight? What's going to happen NFL here? Is everyone waiting for Aaron Rodgers? Are we waiting for Pittsburgh, do you think? What are we waiting for? Because I'm sure Russell Wilson would like to get a deal done, maybe New York.
Yeah, I'm thinking that, Russ is pretty much waiting on Aaron Rodgers. Russ is familiar with Pittsburgh, right? He just was there, took them to the playoffs. So I'm thinking if Aaron Rodgers decides not to go to Pittsburgh, then I think it's a no-brainer for the Steelers to sign Russell Wilson and kind of continue to build what they started last year. But if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I look at DK Metcalf and I look at, the receivers that Pittsburgh has and just the tradition, the fans. They'll welcome him with open arms there. They're desperate to make it out of the first round of the playoffs. So if I'm him, I'm thinking that, even though the Giants have some talent, they do have Malik Neighbors, and they seem to be going all out and trying to put a good team, around whoever's there. I think Pittsburgh will be the better situation for Aaron Rodgers.
Are we not talking about Minnesota anymore then? Like that's not an option, you don't think?
I think it is. I think it is. But for Aaron Rodgers, it really depends on how many years does he want to play. And I think when you walk into the door with the Vikings, you know that J.J. McCarthy's there. You know that they're looking at him to be the next guy. So you may be one and done there. But if you look at Pittsburgh and you look at the Giants, who's the next guy? The Giants may draft a quarterback in Cam Ward early in the draft or Shedeur Sanders, but there's nobody in the wakes in Pittsburgh. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers and I know I have at least 2 years left in me, then I don't want to be in a situation with a rookie quarterback.
Speaking of receivers, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase got paid today. Just some astronomical money for the Bengals. But here's the thing, and I like Joe Burrow. I like the Bengals. They can't start next season 0-4 and 0-5 just to have heartache and pain all season. These guys, they're all getting paid now. Is it time? Now you got to put up, shut up. Everybody's got a nice fat paycheck. Got to go win some football games. Got to make the playoffs. Got to make a push at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think what hurt them last year was just Jamar Chase holding out from training camp, having contract problems and not being able to get that settled. T. Higgins as well. But now that these guys are secure, I think they'll have a hell of an offseason. I think they'll come to camp ready to go. And, I mean, look, Cincinnati, if they're going to win, they're going to win in a shootout. They can't stop anybody. Can't stop a nosebleed, like my guy Bart Scott said back in the day. But, so it's all about that offense, right? Their three biggest, guys against the salary cap are the quarterback and two receivers. So it's all about offense with them. They're going into the season feeling like they're going to go into shootouts every game. And, I think with a good training camp under their belt, everyone in the house, everyone being able to day in and day out build that chemistry that's needed, I really think that they can start the season hot. Joe Burrow's a guy that can sling it, man. So, if they can build that chemistry and try to get to a point where they can score 30 to 40 points a game, then you give yourself a chance.
It's too bad they got to play in the same division as Buffalo. Oh, and they're in the same division as Kansas City.
Yeah, I know. And Baltimore. You can't forget about those guys.
Don't forget about Baltimore.
Yeah.
What about Cleveland? Are we just?
Man, I was watching Cleveland. They had, I think, the top 10 worst free agent signings in Browns history, and man, it's just a terrible situation.
They only did 10. They could that list could have gone on forever.
I was going to say it could be the top 10 free agent signings in NFL history, and the Cleveland Browns are going to own most of that.
I know. That's what they should have done, man. It's just been, I don't know, whoever's in charge there, they just need to just clean house and just start all over, man.
Exactly.
One Cleveland Brown nightmare rider-related story. Remember the quarterback Tim Couch? He played for Cleveland. He was a first-round draft pick. He was going to be a savior. Never worked out. He ended. Maybe this is when you were playing. He ended up in the CFL playing for the Argos, and he threw some long bomb touchdown, and I think beat us. And I'm like, how? How do we keep giving these guys in their first game ever? And we ended up losing. I don't know if the double C's can look that up, but I remember Tim Couch played for the Argos, and there some sort of long bomb, and I think we ended up losing because of that.
I do not remember him playing in the CFL.
I don't either.
Oh, he did. He had a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Right on,
I don't
Darian.
remember Johnny Manziel. I don't remember Johnny Manziel in the CFL. No, were you in Montreal when Manziel was there?
No. I was still in SAS, but I do remember that. And he went to Hamilton as well. You don't remember that?
Yeah. I remember Hamilton. I just, for whatever reason, don't remember him in Montreal.
Oh, yeah.
I love Johnny football. He's awesome.
If you go check out the, I think it's Club Shay Shay with Johnny Manziel. He had some good stories about his time in Montreal, man. So I highly recommend you guys checking that out.
Co-ed dorm style. All right, Darian. St. Patty's Day. Go have a good time, and we'll catch up again on Monday.
Sounds good, man. Thanks, guys.